All right, well, good morning from Nome. I'm Vera Metcalf. I work for the Eskimo Walrus Commission at Coeric here in Nome. I've been here since 2002, but what I'll do is I'll give you some background information on the Walrus Commission, how the Sea Ice for Walrus Outlook works, some of the postings that we received from our local observers from 5 communities this spring on Sea Ice for Walrus Outlook, how it benefits the communities that are currently involved. I'll share a little bit of information on the Arctic Waterway Safety Committee that the Walrus Commission is a member of, how Sea Ice for Walrus Outlook supports Indigenous knowledge or traditional ecological knowledge, and perhaps some suggestions for improvement for this project. So hopefully this will work, as this is my first time using this new technology here in Nome. Okay. Well, here's a little bit a map of the region that I live in. I live in Nome. I'm from St. Lawrence Island, the biggest island in the region. The Walrus Commission is currently located here in Nome. My home is in Sabunga, and there's another small community, Gamble, but there's over perhaps maybe 1,000 each in each community. It's just growing every year. But the Walrus Commission has been around since 1978. It was organized by Coeric. It currently, this map shows all the member communities that are involved with the Walrus Commission. As you can see, we cover a large area from Vera down to Bristol Bay. It's about 5 areas. So it's one of the maybe larger marine mammal commissions in Alaska that are involved in, like Rafaela said, in the co-management regime. We have a co-management partnership, what we call it, with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and co-manage this resource, the Pacific walrus. And I believe we've been doing this since 1990s, when other directors before me were very prominent and working very hard to ensure that the voice of Alaska Natives were included in the co-management discussions. So we've been around for quite a while, and we're still here, and we're not going anywhere. So, but this just a little bit of map that our member communities are from, and there is a Walrus Commission in the Dillingham area, Kayasep Walrus Commission, and we support their efforts and their need to hunt walrus out of Round Island, which is a state sanctuary. So their hunting regime is very different than where we're at now. So we are very supportive of their efforts to continue what, their traditional ways of life, and hunting is very much, and fishing too. So anyway, how does the Sea Ice and Walrus Outlook has been around since 2010, and it provided weekly reports on spring sea ice and weather conditions to Alaska Native subsistence hunters in 5 Bering Strait coastal communities in Gamble, Savunga, Wales, Nome, and Shishmaref. We used to have Diomede, but the communication system is much more challenging there than it is with these other current communities. But how does this work? How does Sea Ice for Walrus work? It's started as a pilot project by Search through ARCUS, then with National Weather Service, NOAA, University of Alaska Fairbanks, and our office. From early April to June, SIWO provided weekly reports during spring hunting season with information on weather and sea ice conditions that included very brief contributions from each participating community, while charts, a little bit of background information on the sea ice and walrus outlook, charts and satellite images of ice distributions, or current weather reports, or pictures taken by local observers and comments of sea ice conditions were in current weather reports were provided by the local observers, either in boats. This map shows you the kind of information that comes through the satellite, and I can tell you this type of image, if you live in a small community, can take for a long time to download because our internet connection is much more slower in the community. So this may take a while, but once you download this information, it shows you everything, open water to sea ice. Sometimes cloud can cover some of the critical information that the hunters might need, or like where's good ice to find where we can find animals that may be resting. So this is very good, clear information that is, once you download it, you can see just about everything in there. And the next slide kind of shows you some of the other information that is provided. This shows you the red, the ice conditions, but again, it's much more slower to download this type of image in your community. But most every hunter that I've known and worked with really use their own technology. Facebook is one of them, and other types of local information that they are much more technologically advanced than we are here in Nome. So I'm always amazed at how much information is shared between Gamble and Savunga hunters, and they do look out for each other when they're out there because of the conditions can change so drastically from calm weather to rough ice and water. So they are very supportive of everyone else that is involved in going long distance to find good game, and availability and accessibility is always a constant thing. But just some examples of postings that we've received from Nome and Wales to Shishmaref from the local observers. It's really good information. I believe they do this when they download the images and information, then they share local observations to back to Seoul site, and I'm just fascinated at all this type of information that is coming from our local folks, because they're out there and looking at the conditions from the ground level. So to me, this is very fascinating information, and I'm really pleased at how much, small information like this can go a long ways. Another comment is from Shishmaref. This is what they saw on that day on May 4th. And again, it's just seeing what is happening in their community. And this is, you can access this information on Zero. I believe you can, www.facebook.com/seaiceforwalrus/thing, and I can share that after, where you can access this type of dialogue between local observers and National Weather Service and others that provide all the maps and other information to the local observers. I mentioned the Arctic Waterways Safety Committee. The Walrus Commission is part of this Arctic Waterways Safety Committee because as many of you know, Bering Straits is a large migratory route for vast numbers of marine mammals and many unlimited seabirds too. Nome and Gamble are considered a seabird viewing communities. They do get a lot of bird watchers. They're still here, but it brings a source of income to a small community like Gamble because of the various amounts of seabirds that migrate through the strait. But the migration follows the sea ice retreat in spring and its growth in the fall. The quality of our marine mammals have sustained us for the past 2,000 years, like Rafaela said. It's what feeds us every year. So we want to protect these resources from industrial development, increased shipping. We're expecting Crystal Serenity to be passing through sometime soon. There's a cruise ship that is scheduled to arrive into Nome tomorrow. Or lack of sea ice. It's been the lack of very safe regulations in our waters. It's what concerns us. So we are part of this Waterway Safety Committee. It's fairly new, but here are the members of the Safety Committee, and we will be meeting in December to go through some a draft. I can't remember what it is, but we'll be reviewing that in the later in the winter to approve it. But it will be shared with the research community, the tourism, and I'm sure that it will be shared widely throughout, various agencies and organizations. But Rafaela mentioned, this is a little bit of information on how the Arctic Waterways Safety Committee organized and voyage planning notices for vessels transiting in the Bering Strait. It's a document that we came up with, and I'm sure you can download this type of information from the Arctic Waterway Safety Committee website. I don't have the website information, but it is available. And the current members are the Walrus Commission, the NANA Commission, Alaska Eskimo Whaling Commission, ICEAL, and Beluga committees. So we're quite active and in coming up with safety measures and voluntary measures for the waters that our animals migrate through. But Rafaela mentioned that transboundary issue. The Pacific Walrus is a shared resource between Russia and US. So we try to work closely with the Chukotkan communities through a small grant with the National Park Service, Beringia program. But we've had some challenges with that program because of the politics that are beyond our control. The organization in Chukotka that we work with, the Association for Traditional Marine Mammal Commission in Chukotka, has been under a lot of scrutiny by the federal government because of the funding that they receive from US. So unfortunately, it's slowed, it has blocked some of our efforts to communicate with our neighbors because they are concerned about the waters and pollution and any other things, because this, it's just this international boundary that separates us. But people from St. Lawrence Island speak the same languages. They in Providencia or Serenity or Novo Cepelino, and we just want to maintain our connections to our family and friends over there. And we brought in some hunters in December 2015 to a workshop here in Nome. And we had a 3-day of sharing information, open discussion, dialogue, concerns, and the challenges and the opportunities that both countries can do. And fortunately, we have some funding to revisit what we can salvage and hopefully continue to maintain these close connections that we have with Chukotka. So these are just 2 hunters that came, and we just had a great time and sharing of mutual and shared information between Alaskan and Chukotkans. Well, I mentioned the Arctic Waterway Safety Committee, but I forgot to mention that currently the representatives not only include subsistence hunters, but City of Nome, the Offshore Oil and Gas Industry, Alaska Marine Pilots Association, COERC, North Slope Borough, Northwest Arctic Borough, and U.S. Coast Guard, and NOAA is very much a part of our discussions and meetings. But we are incorporated back in October 31, 2014, and it is currently the largest waterway safety committee in the U.S., perhaps by a geographic area, and the only waterway safety committee formed with significant involvement by subsistence hunters. So I think we're going the right direction if given the funding situation that we're currently facing. I think, I believe in it, and hopefully it will continue to involve the communities that are very much a part of this migratory route. But I mentioned Sea Ice for Walrus Outlook. How does this support indigenous knowledge or traditional ecological knowledge? Well, we just applied for multi-year funding. If this is secured, the project will be evaluated internally, externally, and improved in a way to continue the practice of co-production of knowledge, including indigenous knowledge. We believe this project is very unique as it integrates scientific information with local observation. This is a picture of a hunter out on the sea ice conditions that is very suitable for harvesting marine mammals. So they're out there in this type of environment. Most of the time, hunters can encounter a good amount of walrus on really good ice like this. I was asked one time what type of sea ice condition is suitable for hunting and butchering, and I've yet to find out how thick an ice should be from some of our hunters. So once I find that out, I'm sure it'll be different in variations among the different communities. But sea ice is very unique because it is hopefully accessible to all users, especially our hunters, coastal communities, or others just interested in sea ice and walrus. This project basically builds priorities based on stakeholder needs and ensures that the stakeholder voices are also heard. So this is a big significant importance for why we, I believe in Waterways. So fingers crossed, we're hoping to secure the funding for the next couple of years, not only to involve the science part of it, but the local observers who are very, intelligent and unique and just very wonderful people to work with. And it just brings together science with indigenous knowledge and, co-production of this knowledge too. Perhaps some suggestions for improvement is that we hope to continue to fund local observers, improve our coordination of feedback and participation by walrus hunters or others in the 5 communities that I mentioned earlier, dissemination of Outlook product in the communities by fax, hard copy, emails, or other means. This still is a challenge because of the internet connections that we have. Sometimes fax don't work and things just fall apart in the communities, but we do what we can to make sure that this information is shared readily among the community members. And improve CI satellite images and provide maybe weather telegrams through radios. We rely heavily on a regional radio system like KNOM and KICY here in Nome, and strengthen partnerships with National Sea Ice and Data Center and other places, and expand this project to other communities and countries, and determine the adequate time period for the project to be integrated. So funding is needed for making sure that this project continues. I will end my slide with this quote that I collected from interviewed Winifred James Sr. from Gamble back in 2009. He was one of our well-known elders that we work closely with. And this is what I believe in. And this is the kind of message that I always want to share with our hunters, that to never give up on what you're doing, despite the circumstances and challenges that you face. So, and I'll be on hold for some questions. Thank you.
Oh, Vera, I'll try to say Yiyam Halik. Did I say that okay?
Oh, perfect, Carolina.
So for everybody else, I tried to learn to say thank you in St. Lawrence Island Yupik. So excited I finally said it right. And Vera and Rafaela, really tremendous thanks to both of you. I know this is a very busy time for both of you and in your communities. So we really appreciate you taking time to share these presentations with us.